Welcome back to Should I Stay or Should I Go? You're in the right place if you've been contemplating divorce, because here we talk about all of it. We talk about guiding you through all the questions, addressing many of the myths so that you're equipped to make a good decision. So, my name is Elizabeth Rose. I am one of your hosts. I'm a certified divorce lending professional, and I've been in the industry for quite a long time. And I've also been through a divorce. And my co-host here, Allison Jeffries, I'll let her introduce herself. So Allison, hello.
Hey, Elizabeth. So I'm excited to be here today. I'm Allison Jeffries. I'm the author of the Amazon best-selling book, A Woman's Guide to Surviving Divorce. I am a divorce coach, and more near and dear to my heart, I am a life recreation coach, helping women who are living in the shadow of divorce, whether it's thinking about it, whether it's in the middle of it, or 5 years after the fact, recreate their lives to learn to live in ways that include more happiness, love, and fulfillment.
And today we have a special guest. We are really excited to introduce Neil Palache. And I think I just messed up your name, Neil. I apologize. I want to share your bio real quick. Neil is not only a divorce coach, but he is also the founder of the Wealth Creator Company for women. So that is like really cool. He specializes in financial consulting, and he also founded and runs the Divorce Transition Professionals, which is a national network. His financial experience stretches over 5 decades, during which he's been an insurance agent, a financial advisor, a registered investment advisor, and a divorce consultant for the last 13 years. He lives and works in Westlake Village, California, which I'm a little bit envious of because that's a beautiful area. He's been married to Stacy since 1987, and they have 3 children, ages 19, 19, and 21. So that makes me think, Neil, that you have twins. Neil, welcome to our show. We are so thrilled to have you.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Great to see you, Allison. And I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm looking forward to chatting with everybody about this really, really important and difficult time in people's lives.
I'd love to jump in here real quick, Elizabeth, and just share a little something about Neil that makes me very happy to have him on this group. You know, as a money coach, as a coach for women, I'm very protective of my clients. And when it comes to women that really are struggling in their financial arena, and it's regardless of how much money they have, earn, could possibly get at the end of the divorce, it's just that concept of confidence with their money. I found that when I send my clients to Neil, he can help them from whatever level they come from, whether it's the woman who's never balanced her own checkbook to the woman who owns her own business and runs her business and is trying to take over her own personal finances. Neil has done such an amazing job of helping these women through all of those scenarios. So I'm excited to have him speak on our call today.
Thanks, Allison.
With that, Neil, one of the things that we were talking about when we were getting started is, well, I guess first of all, what is a money coach, and what makes you different from financial advisor, which you've done that before, but what makes you different in this role as a money coach?
Yeah, that's a great question, and a question that I get quite a bit from people who are introduced to me, who are other professionals, or who are people who are contemplating divorce and wondering, like, okay, I've not often heard, or they haven't heard at all, about what a money coach is. The main thing about being a money coach is that it's a consultative role. That's the primary difference. When you're a financial advisor, and when I was a financial advisor, and I'm sure that both you and Allison know, plenty of financial advisors, that they are heavily licensed and regulated and so forth. Securities licenses, insurance licenses, registrations of different kinds with the SEC, NASD, you name it. And so they are handling investments, they're managing money, they are maybe providing insurance related products and so on and so forth. I don't do any of that. I do not manage money. I don't hold any longer a securities license. I don't sell insurance. Those are not the things that I do. So the money coaching and consulting is a consultative role. I am simply paid a fee, in my case, on a quarterly basis, to talk to and talk through with my clients, in this case, my specialty, which is divorce. That's pretty much 100% of the work that I do at this point. So I actually get the privilege of working with financial advisors. I mean, they're part of the team, a very, very important part of a divorce team, right? So, when I'm looking at the client's assets and liabilities and those issues, but particularly the assets, in many cases, they're already being managed. And so there's an advisor in place. In some cases, they decide, well, I need to get a new advisor. I want to get a new advisor because I don't want to have the same advisor as my soon-to-be ex-husband, let's say. So I'm working with the financial advisor to be a support member of the team as those assets are being managed by that person. And I'm just kind of, putting in my two penneth worth, as it were, with regard to how that might be managed. So, yeah.
Neil, that is a great explanation of what you do. And we both agree that it's important to have someone here that's not a financial advisor, but someone that can speak to a woman one-on-one, not about selling her anything, just being there to guide her and teach her and educate her. And so you've done a brilliant job of differentiating that difference between what the financial advisor does, which is a crucial role for a woman in managing her money.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a certain amount of knowledge that has to come into play before they are comfortable communicating with and working with that financial advisor in many instances. And that's where I think you come in to help these women bridge that gap.
Yeah, I
So can
also,
you tell us a little bit
oh,
about
sorry, go
what you
ahead.
do with your clients? Go ahead. Tell us
Yeah,
a
I
little
was
bit
just,
about
yeah,
what
I
you
was
do.
going to expand just one little expansion on the financial advisory role and the differences, because you work with a lot of different one can work with a lot of different financial advisors. And there are differences in financial advisors, right, in the way that they approach a situation. So whenever I talk with financial advisors, if I'm the one bringing them to the table or if they are already at the table, my goal with them is to say, look, I want to have as little crossover as possible. I mean, we do need to be on the same page with regard to what is necessary here to make the client comfortable and be okay. But I also, as little crossover as possible. So I'll talk to the financial advisor about, okay, what do you want to do with the client other than investing their money? Like, is there other things that you want to be involved in? And so then we can just say, well, okay, if you're going to do that part, then I'll do this part. So that there is that discussion is important so that we're not okay, if you're going to do a budget, then I don't need to do a budget. But if you don't do budgeting, then I'll do the budgeting. Then that's fine. And in that way, there's less crossover, less conflict, and the financial advisor can feel real confident that, oh, okay, these things are going to get done. I might talk to the client every day or every other day, and the financial advisor is used to quarterly meetings. So it's, I like to just make sure that I'm integrated into what the financial advisor is doing and I don't get in the way. Essentially, that's my role. And when I'm to your question, Alison, when I'm working with a client, what do I do? Well, as you and I, we've had this conversation on many occasions before with regard to our respective clients, and as you well know, every client is in a different situation, right? I mean, if a client is 50 years old, just to use an example, they've had a lot of adult life, right? well, they've had a fairly long life at that point total, but they've had a 30-year adult life approximately, let's say. And so, what was that like? Um, and how did they grow up? Did they grow up in a situation where they were poor, where they were rich, where they were middle class? Did they get the money doesn't grow on trees kind of thing, or did they get a credit card at 15 years old? Like, what happened? Number one, as a child, and number two, as you grew into adulthood, what did that look like for you? Oh, you went to college, great. I'd say most of my clients have college degrees. And then, okay, what did you do? Oh, well, I became a lawyer. I went into financial services. I opened a business, doing X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. And then some of them are still doing those things. And some of them, when they were in their late 20s, maybe early 30s, they got married and decided that they wanted to take a break to have kids. And so maybe the next 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, they were in a situation where they could do that financially. Their partner was generating enough income to take care of things during that period of time. And they haven't been in the workforce for the last 12 to 15 years, let's say. But they've got a good basis because prior to that they were involved and so forth. And even when they were not in a career during that time, they maybe were still involved in the finances. Maybe they were in control of the finances and paying all the bills, or maybe they were completely out of it and weren't involved at all. And you and I have met people where the client will say, yeah, my husband did everything. I wasn't involved, and I trusted him to do this and I trusted him to do that, which is often why they're now going through, a divorce scenario, right? I mean, you and I have talked about that. So I'll meet the client, the saying, I'll meet you where you are. That's what I'm doing. I'm meeting them where they are. Where are you? Well, I haven't done anything in the finances for 20 years. Okay. So we got to learn online banking. We got to learn about paying bills. We got to learn what a mortgage is, what insurances are, all these things, because you're going into a single life and now you're going to be fully responsible for all of that. You're a smart, intelligent person. It's all learnable. And 3 months, 6 months from now, you have it, you've learned it, you'll never forget it, and you'll be doing it, no worries. But for the time being, they just don't know that. You don't know what you don't know, right? On the other hand, I have some extremely busy, high income, successful business women and professional women that are making, oodles of money. They, on the other hand, they know how to do it all, but they may not be doing a very good job, and they know it. Like, they're so busy doing their work and raising a family as well in many cases, right? They're doing both. They're like super women as far as I'm concerned. But they've got bounce check charges from the bank. The credit card bills get paid late. They've got, late fees and different things like that. And so there's literally hundreds of dollars a month going out the door for nothing. And so we're trying to correct those situations. And occasionally you find somebody who's just like, that they got it down. Like so we're working on different things with them. Maybe we're working on how to grow their business income, how to get better jobs, how to create a side gig, maybe if they need additional income. So it can be, Allison, across the board. I mean, literally anything that touches money. If they are currently, their car lease is going to be up, and I want to make, I mean, they may know how to do that, negotiate a car, and that's great. But I just want to make sure that they don't get screwed. Excuse me. Like, you get into buying a car and you're like, okay, let's just make sure You're not overbuying, you're not overpaying, the interest rate's good, the lease factor is good. Let's just make sure. And, my job then becomes to, like I'm a second set of eyes on a situation. And it's a lot of fun, and it's very rewarding, and it's eye-opening both to me and the client. So maybe that's kind of a long answer to a short question, but that pretty much covers it.
Well, I think your mention of negotiating car leases is
Yeah,
going to get you a lot of phone calls just from this one podcast.
yeah, no kidding. And and especially now, the car market is crazy.
It
Getting
certainly
an
is.
it's just, and of course interest rates are up. So, the combination of lack of cars, new cars, used cars that are 20-30% more expensive than they were 2 years ago, and interest rates. It's it's an
It's a
interesting,
perfect storm for
it
an
really
expensive
is.
payment.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
So Neil, you mentioned something that I think is really important to talk about, simply because I think, and I could be wrong, but I think that a lot of people don't really know this, and that's about the team concept. I've been preaching it for since 2015, but I think most people that are thinking about getting a divorce, they may talk to their counselor, and then they contact an attorney, and that's the end of the story. And they don't think about the fact that the attorney, while he may be the best in town, he is an expert on the law and on divorce law. He's not necessarily the person that you should look to for the financial direction.
Hmm.
So, do you want to talk a little bit about like how you interface within that team framework, how you come in and support the team and the client?
Yeah, I would love that. And you've got situations where people come into a picture like divorce and they have advisors, but a lot of times, we are still not living in a society where there is true equality between men and women, right? So you have marriages, especially those marriages where people are a little older. Let's say they're 50. It's not old, but older, right? And let's say that it's a little more traditional. Not that the woman may not have a career or whatever, but it's traditional in that the relationships are often the husband's. It's his buddy from college, or whatever. That's often the case that I hear. Oh, my financial advisor, my accountant, my lawyer, these are people I've known since college. We were roomies, whatever, right? And so then my clients, who are always female, they come out of that situation and they don't have advisors. They don't want to have the same advisor anymore, and they don't have advisors. So number one, in those situations, I'm kind of creating the team, but I'm not dictating it. I mean, I will say to somebody, look, let's go talk to two or three attorneys, mortgage brokers, financial advisors, realtors, whatever it is that we need, and you pick who you're comfortable with. Like, I have nothing. I mean, I might give you my opinion, but I don't have any financial involvement in that relationship. You're going to hire who you're comfortable with. A lot of it's personality. I'm not going to bring you anybody that doesn't have the experience, so they're all good at what they do. And then, yeah, the team has to be um, assembled. I mean, it's almost like we have collaborative law, right, which is very specific in its structure. But even if you're not using collaborative law as the method through which you're going to get divorced, that doesn't mean to say that all the professionals ought not be collaborating, small c, right? So we're all collaborating, and we are making sure, well, yeah, Elizabeth needs to be involved in this situation because the house is going to get kept by one of you. We're not sure who yet. And you're both on the mortgage and you're both on the house title. And we know that we can't just take one of you off the mortgage. So that's going to have to be refinanced at some point. Right now interest rates are crazy high. So, if they've got something at 3%, we're not going to refinance you into a 7% loan, but you got to know kind of how that works, right? To get that person who's not staying there off the loan. Or if the property is going to be sold, if that's necessary, then a realtor's got to be involved. And what I see a lot, you mentioned the whole attorney issue, and there are attorneys out there that are great at collaborating. And when they do, they'll listen, because when we talk about this issue of being in a community property state and splitting assets 50-50, I don't know about you, but I bet this happens to you guys too. People will come to you and say, well, how do we split the house? How do we split the furniture? Or how do we split a 401k plan? And then you explain to them, well, sometimes you split each asset, but a lot of times it's just about balancing. You don't split all the assets 50-50, you split the whole thing 50-50. So maybe you keep the 401k plan and he keeps the house, or, somebody gets the brokerage account and somebody gets the vacation property. But, and people don't often understand that. They think, oh, we got to sell everything, liquidate, split the cash, and then go, do our lives. It's funny, right? I mean, we all get that. People think that. But that in doing all of that, you've got to have the mortgage broker, the real estate agent, the accountant for tax purposes. Certainly the lawyers involved from a legal perspective, the financial advisor, because things need to be invested, an insurance agent. Oh my goodness. Car insurance, home insurance, life insurance, health insurance, all of that's got to be looked at. You better have a good team. So yeah, really, really, really important.
You definitely nailed it with that, because that's the place that I come from. I believe that they really need to be surrounded by a team, and it's great. All the things that you just mentioned, I love that you grabbed there at the end that insurance person, because that's the one I think often gets forgotten. But there's so many components to a financial household, and you named them all. And certainly the CPA or a tax accountant, because a lot of times there's when if they do sell the property, there may be some tax liability there, and that needs to be identified right up front too.
Well, and equal isn't always equal, right? So is $500,000 of equity in a house equal to $500,000 in a 401k plan?
My answer would be no, it's
No,
not.
it isn't, right? But it's, because the tax consequences are different, right? And so, and this is the type of stuff where you can't, the lawyer practicing financial advising is like the financial advisor practicing law. Like it just shouldn't cross over. You've got to have that discussion with people who know what they're talking about. And the same with, I mean, the child support and spousal support issue. I mean, there's some science involved in that, with the DiscoMaster and the calculators that one can use. But a lot of it it's art, it's science and art mixed to finally decide, what's fair, what can somebody afford, what needs to happen. Like people will say, well, aren't I entitled to live the same kind of lifestyle as I lived before? Well, kind of, but not if the money's not there. Like you're going to run two households and there's only so much income. And so if you can, great, but it's not like it's a law that says that both people need to live in this 7-bedroom mansion that you both had when you were married. Doesn't quite work that way. So it's an interesting and difficult and challenging discussion sometimes. Back to the car lease idea, Elizabeth, like, yeah, I know you've been driving a $80,000 car, $100,000 car. I think we may need to scale that back to like a $40,000 car. It'll still be really nice. But yeah, we're gonna have to scale it back from the Porsche SUV to a Lexus.
Yeah, I have had many discussions with clients that have said, I want to maintain my lifestyle. And it's like, well, how is that actually possible when you're a dual income family and now you're going to be independent of one another, each maintaining a household? It's not feasible. That doesn't mean you can't maintain perhaps something somewhat close to it or relative to it, but
Right.
things do change.
Mhm.
So, Neil, how do people get in touch with you if they were interested in working with you?
Well, that's a great question and easily answered, fortunately, with the multitude of communication opportunities that we all have these days. But yeah, if somebody wants to call me directly, they can just call me at 818-606-7327. If email, they can text or call me on that. That is my direct cell phone number. If they would like to send me an email, Neil, Neil, at thewealthcreatorcompany.com. Spell it all out. Neil at thewealthcreatorcompany.com. Or they can go to the wealthcreatorcompany.com website. And certainly there is a contact me button on that website if that's easier.
Great. Well, we'll be sure to post all that information. Allison, do you have any other questions for Neil?
I have one question that I have to ask because it's near and dear to my heart. And I know Neil knows what's coming, but Neil, you work with women. I work with women. We're women, so we get the conundrum going on in our heads. Can you give us a quick why women? Why do you work with women? Why does that drive you and make you your best?
Yeah, that is a question that I often get, and the answer is, two or threefold. Number one, I actually have a better personality match with women than I do with men. Not that I don't have any men friends. I mean, don't get me wrong. But I really enjoy that personality match. Secondly, from my perspective, women are more coachable than men in general. However, I also find that in particular when it comes to money, uh, men are, they hold things a little closer to the chest, right? For men, like we're very sensitive about how much money that we make and whether our businesses are successful and how big of a house we live in and all this kind of stuff. Not that women aren't concerned about that, but women are more concerned about, am I gonna be okay? It's the drive is a little bit different. They don't want to, as you and I have discussed before, become a bag lady, right? They want to know, am I going to be okay? Are the kids going to be okay? I don't need to live in a 7-bedroom mansion, but I need to live in a house and I need to be safe and I want my kids to be safe and so on and so forth. So they're also more open. That coachability, I find, like that emotional side of a human, which comes out more in women than it does in men in many cases, is extremely helpful to me. Like it helps me to know what's going on and really learn and listen to the words that are being said versus a man. A man is often very factual, so I'll get that. but I won't get the innards. What's going on? What do you want to get out of this? So it was just a choice. I mean, it's a choice that I made 13 years ago. And I've stuck with it, and it's worked very well for me. I enjoy it, and I'd like to think my clients do too. So, yeah.
Well, Neil, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you here today with us. And we hope you'll come back again because I think we can go deeper on so many of the areas that you touch on in your money coaching with women. So thank you again for joining us. And for everyone else, please stay tuned and come back next week. Or actually, we're going to take a break next week because it's Thanksgiving. So come back the following week where we'll have our next topic. And we hope everyone has a wonderful holiday.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.